guys, what's going on? It's John here for the Free Agent Frenzy review, and we're about 4 days into free agency. So I'm gonna go around and talk about some of the big free agent signings that happened so far. So I'll go through them all. So Evgeny Nabokov was re-signed by the New York Islanders. It was interesting to see what the Islanders were going to do because there's options like Tim Thomas, who is the Islanders' property, or if they were going to go back to Nabokov. And I believe Nabokov's getting just a little bit over $3 million for one season. Another goalie, Ray Emery, who was part of the Stanley Cup winning Chicago Blackhawks, is going back to Philadelphia. And the starting job will be up for grabs in Philadelphia as they've brought in Steve Mason, and now you got Ray Emery, who only lost one game last year. And obviously he'll lose more than one this next year, but I mean, if he plays as well as he did last season, it could be his job for the taking. A big splash that happened was Daniel Alfredsson leaving Ottawa and heading to Detroit. Prior to July 5th, which was the first day of free agency, people thought that Alfredsson had narrowed it down to 3 teams, Ottawa, Detroit, and Boston. But everyone thought that Alfredsson was just going to go back to Ottawa when they heard that he was coming back. And I guess, long story short, Alfredsson took all the blame for it and said it was just him being selfish and thinking that Detroit is going to have a better chance to win him a cup. But there's no hard feelings for Brian Murray, who's the GM for the Senators. So that was a big pickup for Detroit. Detroit also picked up Stephen Weiss, and they're going to be a tough team to beat in the East. Remember that with realignment, Detroit and Columbus are coming to the East, and Winnipeg's going to the West. So it'll be 4 divisions. The East division will have 8 teams, and the West division will have 7 teams. But yeah, so the pickups of Weiss and Alfredsson, Alfredsson's an older player, and Weiss isn't that young either. But look out for Detroit next year. Alright, I gotta try to speed this up a little bit. Rob Scuderi comes back to Pittsburgh. That's going to be a big loss for LA, as he was a crucial part of that. He was like a third line D pair, but he could play with anybody on LA. So that'll be a big loss. I believe he was actually playing with Slava Voinov, so it's interesting to see how he handles that. Tyler Kennedy, who was traded during the draft from Pittsburgh to San Jose with his signing rights, and he ended up getting it done with San Jose. Clark MacArthur leaves Toronto and heads to Ottawa. We'll talk about Toronto more in a second. Edmonton, we already talked about. They have Andrew Ference, which is a great signing. Pierre-Marc Bouchard leaving Minnesota and going to the Islanders. I think that's a good signing. He can play top 6 minutes. The Blackhawks re-signed Jesus and Roosevelt. Thomas Greiss leaves San Jose and heads to Phoenix. And that in San Jose is looking like they're going to stick to Stalock as the backup there behind Niemi. Nashville had some great pickups. You could clearly tell what Nashville was trying to do. They didn't want to go after one of those people who wants $6 million a year for 7 years, anything like that. They wanted people who they could sign for cheap and 2 to 4 year contracts, as they signed Victor Stahlberg, Matt Hendricks, Eric Nystrom, and Matt Cullen. All great pickups who can play top 6, top 9 minutes. Dan Ellis is going to go to Dallas, and Boston Bruins former backup Anton Khudobin is heading to Carolina. David Clarkson heading to Toronto for 7 years, along with, they also re-signed Tyler Bozak. So those are 2 great pickups for Toronto. Ryan Clough and Michael Ryder are heading to New Jersey to replace Clarkson. And also today, Henrik Tallinder got traded away from New Jersey back to Buffalo, where he was drafted. Valtteri Filppula is heading to Tampa Bay to replace Vinny Lecavalier in the second line. He's getting 5 years, $5 million a year. And I believe that's a little bit too much for the Lightning, but I mean, you either don't give him how much money he wants, and you don't have any other centers behind Stamkos. Yes, the Lightning are going to bring up some young players like Tyler Johnson, and they already have Alex Killorn. But I mean, he's I mean, Steve Yzerman, Philip Pilla, the Detroit connection was enough to get the deal done, and I think he'll do well there. Saku Koivu resigns with the Ducks for another year. Mike Ribeiro leaves Washington and goes to Phoenix for 4 years. He's familiar with Tippett when they played, didn't play together, but when Tippett coached and he played in Dallas. Dominic Moore returns to the league, signs a 1-year contract with the Rangers after taking the year off. Benoit Pouliot leaves Tampa and joins the Rangers as well. Maxime Laperriere, Keith Aucoin, and Derek Roy all join St. Louis. Matt Cook leaves Pittsburgh and joins the Wild. Jarome Iginla is finally in Boston. 3 months, a little later than people have expected, but he signed on a 6-year contract. Habib Boulin returns to replace Ray Emery in goal as the backup in Chicago. Ryan McDonough today re-signed 6-year contract with the Rangers. Joe Corvo heads back to Ottawa. Matt Gilroy leaves the Rangers and joins Florida. So all in all, it was a flurry of trades flurry of signings that first day. I think they set a record for most. I think they were 11 signings short of their record for most signings, but they destroyed their record for money spent. GMs, it's funny, they spent the whole lockout worrying about money, and then the owners and GMs are just throwing out money everywhere. I don't even know, but it was really exciting. There's a lot of change going on in the NHL right now. You have teams like the Bruins changing their whole team around. You got Detroit adding Alfredson and Weiss. You got, Philadelphia's got LeCavier and Ray Emery as their backup. I could go on and on I could say something about every team and how they're very different. Other than, Washington is the only team who I can think off the top of my head really lost so far this free agency. They might do something, but they lost Mike Ribeiro, who's the second-line center for them, and he could play on the power play, and they also lost Jeff Schultz, and they didn't pick anybody up. But that is my free agent frenzy recap, guys. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like down below and a comment on how you thought your team did in the free agency. And thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
We started from the bottom, but we racing to the top. And we never ever sleep, but got dreams of getting on. And times are looking hard, but we'll never stop. And we do it for the fans, cause these fans are all we got. But we ain't in this alone, we thankful for your help. I'm rapping heavyweight and reaching for that.